Today is a special day. Well, every day is special around here, but today we have two awesome ladies on the 4x4 Canada podcast. Before we get into the show, though, if you enjoy it, please give us a rating on your favorite podcast app and share it with your friends. It really helps others find us and enjoy the show as well. So, for the first time ever, I have a co-host on the 4x4 Canada podcast. Trisha, welcome to the show.
Hey. Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for all the hard
excited.
work you've been doing. This is really neat. So some of you may recall Trisha was a guest along with Nikki when I interviewed them on the GTA Jeep Girls, female-only Jeep club in Toronto area. And Trisha got a hold of me the next day and asked how she could become more involved. And I asked if she wanted to be a co-host. And so I asked her to contact some people that she thought would be really interesting guests, and she did. And she did all that prep work for the interview. I don't think you realize how much work it is.
It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But you know what? I enjoyed it. I love talking to people. So yeah, I'm excited.
You're talking about wheeling. I mean, how can you go
I
wrong,
know,
right? But
exactly.
a lot of people just think, the guests just show up and talk, but there's a lot more to it on the backside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Researching the guests and getting hold of potential guests and arranging a schedule. I mean, the three of us tonight, we are all working on different schedules, and you guys are over in the wrong side of the Rockies, and I'm over in BC. So we got a 3-hour delay here, right? So it's it's like 8:30 or something like that over there. So appreciate both coming on board. So before we get into our guest, Trisha, where can people find you on the socials?
So socials, I go as redbeast_JL. So that you can follow me there. I have lots of pictures and wheeling and with the crew and some nice photography that a friend of mine has done for me as well. So go ahead and check it out. Yeah,
I saw the pictures you guys did the last couple of days and posted up some really cool stuff. So some really good photos. Pretty neat.
Thanks.
So Trisha, how about you introduce our guest today?
Sure. Okay. So today, once again, let's talk about women and women off-roading and empowerment and just us being in the off-road industry, and we're taking over. So today we have a guest. Her name is Amber. Amber is actually the founder of a event and kind of a movement, I should say, of Not A Pavement Princess that we have here in Ontario. It's going on the 5th year as of this summer coming. And thank you, Amber. Thank you for coming on the show. I definitely wanted to invite you just to kind of explore more about women and wheeling and just off-roading and buggies and 4x4 and all that good stuff. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. I couldn't be happier to talk about one of my passions, obviously.
So you mentioned the Not A Pavement Princess event, as well as that people can find you on Facebook at Not A Pavement Princess. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a group. It's a page, Not A Pavement Princess. It's dedicated specifically to just our events and our fundraising and anything that we really think that is appropriate to be sharing about women in wheeling. And then on Insta, it's Not A Pavement Princess _official. And you might find a little bit more content there, pictures and things like that. But the page is dedicated solely mostly for the events and again, and just empowering women.
That's great. So, we'll throw those on the show notes as well, too.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about the event itself. So Not A Pavement Princess, I've recently had the pleasure of joining the last 2 years, wheeling with you guys and just hitting up the trails and having like a full day event and getting to meet other wheelers and people I've wheeled before and seen in, other groups and so forth. Tell us how the event actually started, or like about the whole movement. Like, where did it come to be?
Yeah, so I started wheeling in 2015 because a very good friend of mine convinced me to attend an OF 4-wheel drive newbie run. My Jeep was absolutely brand spanking new and totally bone stock, but I had purchased a Rubicon not for what I thought it was for, but for leather seats and heated seats and, just like the stereo and all of that sort of stuff. And I had absolutely no idea that the off-road world of Jeeping even existed. So it was rather mind-blowing. And if, I'm sure Trisha can understand this, but the first time out on the trails, you're either completely and utterly intimidated and scared, or you're like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. And so for me, it was the
Absolutely.
latter. And, you know, from there, the same friend who was in the off-road sort of building business, he said to me about a year or two later, you know, hey, I think that there might be something in the women's wheelings category where we could, you know, we could probably do an all women's event. What do you think? And I just said, let's do it. And that's how it all started. So it
Wow.
was an amazing first year, and now it's the fifth, and it built and built and
Mhm.
built, and it's just incredible. And I
Mhm.
think, Trisha, were you not there the first year or the second?
I think I was there the first year.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've been coming for the last few years. I think there's only one summer that I probably haven't actually gone, but
Yeah.
I've gone, yeah. And it's a good, amazing wheeling experience. And for me, I think joining that in the first year, it was nice to wheel with, you know, other ladies. And when I was wheeling with other groups, you know, it's mostly, you know, male dominated. So to just be with like other female guides and female wheelers, it was amazing. I was like, we need to do this more often. I'm coming to this event every year.
So what is the event? I mean, obviously there's trail rides and such like that, but is there trail rides for every, like for newbies right up to the experienced
Yeah.
people? And, you know, what about the after, like during the evenings and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what's amazing is that over the years, you know, we have collected some incredible women wheelers who become our guides. And so we've all started somewhere. So whether that's absolutely beginner and stock, or whether that's, you know, built buggy. And so we actually are able to offer trails from beginner to expert. And when I say expert, like I mean 40-inch tires, private land, crazy over the ledge rock obstacles, like incredible, amazing trails.
I was looking at some of your photos and I'm
Yeah.
like, these girls aren't messing around. Like this is
No.
stuff that, like this is hardcore stuff, right? So
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it was impressive.
But we honestly, like I mostly enjoy taking the women who've never been out before.
Yep.
And maybe their kid, their daughter, or their son, or maybe their husband's in the passenger seat, and they just have no idea how to put their Jeep into four low. And we just go bumping down a new trail, you know, and we teach them something that they didn't know they could do. And that is the empowerment and the confidence that like this event brings to women. So I think it's amazing. So like I said, a beginner to expert, what do you want to wheel? We can give it to you all.
Yeah. That's great. And is it a camping weekend as well too, or?
Yeah, we encourage. So we have base camp, which is at a Minden Off-Road Park, and they've been a big supporter of our event for the last 5 years. And we do s'mores around the fire and just camaraderie and music. And, you know, we do encourage the ladies to stay, and it's part of the event registration option. And the camping fees are pretty nominal. And I think it's a really good time and it allows for bonding. And that's how you get to know people. And that's, if you really truly love the off-roading community, that's how you get the friends and keep it up and keep wheeling together. So yeah, it's amazing. We usually do like a crazy breakfast where we play like Miranda Lambert or like Shania Twain or something like that. It's like pancakes and, you know, girly stuff, fruit, berries, things like that. So it's always like a really cool time for sure.
Sounds like a great time.
So going back to the charity of choice, now I know that you've chosen charity of choice. Can you tell us more about that and like how the event donates to them?
Sure. So the YWCA is the local charity to where we wheel. And I've been attending events for going on 8 years. And we usually try to support the area in which, you know, we're off-roading. They typically tend to be areas further north from the city and maybe don't necessarily have the same kind of funding that other charities do. So the YWCA is the local women's shelter. There is an actual women's shelter in Minden that if you're going to go on one of our off-road trails, you literally drive by. And so the money goes directly to that shelter. And I think it's really powerful for us to be able to give back to a community that we spend a lot of time off-roading in, and they are extremely appreciated. Like usually when I drop off the money or pick up the posters, because we usually try to take the posters with us and get shots on the trail with us and the posters, to try to promote the charity a little bit. Like there's always just tears, and they're like tears of joy and thanks. And we started with just fill a purse. And then it became the point where we could actually raise like a monetary cash value, which is really definitely more of what they need because they can put that money to work so much better than we can. And so that I'm really proud to be able to sponsor them.
Amazing. Yeah, really good cause. It's a really good cause. Girls, get out there, sign up for the event.
We have almost an unlimited capacity. We had at our top number was 50 women. And believe it or not, that was in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic. So it was, nobody else had anything to do. I feel like,
but we wanted to get out.
Yeah. But we were able to do it really safely, right? Because we could, social distance. You're in your own Jeep with your own family members and friends. And so it was a great experience for people to have while we were going through those times. So yeah, I'd love to get back to that number where we were close last year. But we pretty much have lucky enough to have an unlimited capacity for this event. And unlimited number of trails too. So,
and that's coming up on July 8th, you said?
July 8th, 2023.
Yeah.
And it's a full day event. And hopefully the weekend if you want to spend it.
Beautiful. So you mentioned you've got a Jeep. What are you driving?
So I have a 2015 two-door JK. I have spent the years upgrading and building it. So it's currently on a 3.5-inch TerraFlex lift, fully skidded, 37-inch tires, everything pretty much except like a hardcore steering system. So I'm not quite there yet, but it will get there. I had it's a Rubicon to begin with, so that was nice. I didn't really have to do the re-gear to get it to 37, but it will get re-geared because it's strenuous on that. But yeah, that's what I pretty much daily drive, to be honest. I purchased it as a winter vehicle.
And now you're just like, you know what? Yeah, I love it so much. I'm going to just drive it every day.
Yeah. So I had a 2-door convertible. I couldn't drive anymore. I'm moving north into where I live now. And so now it's my cheapest pretty much driven year round, except they still have the 2-door convertible. So
with the lift and something on it.
The lift and the tires, right?
Are you planning to do any more modifications, or do you feel like you're almost complete? Like, I know there's like that feeling people are like, you know what? I've done so much work on my Jeep, like a couple, years and whatnot. And I feel complete now. I think, this is okay. But then some people are like, no, I just want to like do this. And then I want to get a whole new tire set, or I want to switch it up.
Yeah, I definitely needed a Curry anti-rock system in the front. That would be probably my last mod, I think. I don't think there's anything left to mod. I'm not gonna lie.
It's totally modified it.
I mean, unless something breaks, right?
So if you run out of mods, then it's time to sell it and start over.
Right.
Or get another baby.
Yeah.
Well, I have a second one. So
yeah. So tell us about your second one. Tell us.
So I have a 1993 rock crawling home built YJ on 42-inch tires. And
yes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like roll cage. I mean, it's barely a Jeep anymore, but it has a 4-liter. It's because I loved wheeling so much. I was really hard on my JK, and some of my friends had bigger lifts and bigger tires. I think, Wes, to your point where you said that some of your friends have 40s. Well, I just thought I gotta play with the big boys, right? Like that. I gotta find some alternative. And so my husband actually found it, and it was built by now friends of ours way back in the day. And it's been to Moab, and it's seen a lot of off-road places. And so yeah, it's my early season, late season, Not A Pavement Princess. So I don't it's intimidating. So I wheel with my good buds, like my good friends with that. Women too. I'm saying buds, but I mean ladies as well. And yeah, that's reserved for the really crazy fun.
Yeah. I've seen it, and I'm like, oh yeah, now that's a fun. I didn't see that on, and we'll
have to get you driving it.
Oh my God. That's it. Oh my God.
Yes.
Is there a lot of females running in the buggies and stuff like that over in Ontario?
So there is, and there isn't. We have a world where there is off-road wheeling, which is what, Trisha and I do. And then there's off-road racing.
Right.
So there are some women who are off-road racers, and there are some women who have really built Jeeps like mine. And these women I've come to know over the last 8 years, and they have been wheeling for longer than me. And so they've been in this kind of community for much, much longer, but still a very much male dominated space in that land. But it's getting better for sure. But not that it's bad to be in a male dominated space, but when I started wheeling, I could count on my one hand how many other women there were wheeling in the region. So, to grow from 5 to 50 plus women, right? Like that's in 7-8 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've really seen an increase in the last probably 5 years or so. I've noticed seen a lot more women wheeling, and it's great to see. A lot of them have their own Jeeps now. It's great to see more women out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it a big difference? Obviously, you have a big difference in vehicles. Do you find it sometimes interesting hopping from one to the other, going wheeling in one and then go wheeling in the other the next weekend? And you got to kind of remember how to drive almost, going back into the small one.
Yeah. So the buggy, the larger Jeep, the old YJ is automatic, and my JK is a manual transmission. So there is 100% completely different wheeling style there between the two vehicles, let alone their size difference. And so, it's very different. I mean, I'm years into both of those vehicles, so I totally know what I'm switching in and out of, but it is a very, very different experience. And of course, with the buggy, I'm doing much more challenging obstacles and trails. So that in itself is definitely a completely different wheeling style for sure. So
you take it to Moab. Have you gone anywhere else, like in the States or?
No. And so I attended the King of the Hammers. Well, NAP represented 3 Canadian off-road racing teams. We supported them this past February. And at the King of the Hammers, unfortunately, it was impossible for me to get a vehicle down there. But I did rent a Jeep and drove around a little bit. Definitely nothing that crazy. But to witness that experience was absolutely like one of the things I think I'll remember for the rest of my life, for sure. And those 3 Canadian race teams, they were just like so committed, and just everyone pitched in together, and it was absolutely amazing. So I would eventually love to go down there one day with my own rig for sure. And Kentucky, Tennessee, that's like on my bucket list too. Yeah.
Interesting. They actually have a lot of good wheeling down there from everything I've seen on YouTube and that, right? But
yeah,
it's funny I'm always thinking West Coast because of where I am, right? But I don't really think much of Kentucky and Tennessee or down in that area. But everything I've seen they got some good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of similarities to Ontario, but on a larger scale. So you have a lot of rocks, and then you have a lot of water, and then like it's a little bit more mountainous. My favorite place to wheel in Ontario is in Calabogie, Ontario. There's some incredible trails there, and I've had the pleasure of meeting some of the local off-roaders who've taken us and shown us the secret spots and the best places to wheel, and like some of the views, not nowhere near what the mountains are like, but for Ontario, absolutely incredible, where you can take your Jeep to pretty much the top of a mountain and then look out upon miles and miles and miles of scenery. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely it's really interesting how we're all in the same country, but there's so much different styles of wheeling or different styles of terrain. In Ontario, I mean, there's lots of rocks and water and trees, kind of, other than on the power lines and that, but lots of rock and lots of mud and water and that. But whereas, BC, it's a lot more of the alpine stuff, or, you get Saskatchewan, where northern Saskatchewan is all mud, and there's actually a lot of rocks up there as well too. But it's such a broad country, right?
Yeah,
so
it really is.
I'd love to go wheeling in every province if I can, in every territory. So I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I hope to one day too. Yeah, New Brunswick, there's quite a huge Jeep community there. And again, very similar trails to what we have here in Ontario. You don't really think that, but yeah.
Yeah, we've actually got some guys coming on, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, from the East Coast. And so I'm really excited to talk to them about how the different wheeling, how different it is over there, right? So other than their funny accents. But yeah, no, it should be a good conversation for sure.
So going into, I guess, more of a, since you're trail guide extraordinaire, let's talk a little bit more about like if someone wants to basically has a new Jeep, old Jeep, whatnot, where would they start in the off-roading industry? Like what things they should look at, like how to get involved, what's the best trails for, some tips for newbies or any best trails to go for, a couple of newbie runs or just to explore and see what Jeep is capable. Well, I know that like a lot of girls that I've guided and, helped with the GTA Jeep girls, they've always asked, oh, what trails can we go on? What can I do with my stock Jeep? My stock Jeep is just stock. I don't have anything, no modifications. And I'm like, listen, your Jeep is a Jeep, 4-wheel drive. That's what a Jeep's made for, terrain. You can go, don't feel intimidated. You can do it. And then once you do it, you're like, yeah, you don't have to put all in. You just want a nice mud, a little bit of water, some scenery. So what would you like suggest or what you would recommend or give some advice?
For sure. Well, join the GTA Jeep Girls page. 100% if you're a Jeep girl. But if you're just a Jeeper in general, I think joining the OF 4-wheel drive, which is the Ontario Federation of 4-wheel drive enthusiasts, they are our advocacy for trails in Ontario. And, I've been a proud member as long as I've been off-roading. And I am also the organizer of all of their newbie runs. And so there's that, which we educate and we are always promoting tread lightly and we are providing the best advice for new wheelers. And I think that that's your best reference to go to. And then from there, a really good, well-known club like the GTA Jeep Girls or Central Ontario Off-Road Jeep Club. Or if you're in the Eastern Ontario Off-Road Club, join a really reputable club and get to know those people. And the overlanding community in Ontario has really come a long way in the last couple of years. We have Overland North. They're an amazing group of people who have events. So to your point, Trisha, if you're just stock and you really want to just get your feet wet into off-roading, like your overlanding clubs are going to be your best bet. And from there, you may want to start doing a little bit more modifications to get to the more difficult trails. But there's lots of trails to be run for stock Jeeps. And to your point, they're very, very capable right off.
Very capable.
Lot. Yeah.
100% first. Yep.
And and you shouldn't be intimidated. You should learn about how capable they are. And they have an amazing history. So that can be learned as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of other capable vehicles too. I mean, if somebody's listening and they don't happen to have a Jeep, they've got a new, whether it be a new Bronco or they got a Tacoma or
Subarus.
Subarus are becoming things. Yeah.
Yeah. So the newbie run in May for the OF 4-wheel drive has been sold out since pretty much the second day registration opened last month.
Wow.
And June is over 50% sold out. And I've received the list for May where, I have the fantastic task of assigning all of these vehicles to specific trails based on both modifications and experience. And so we have probably the most diverse mix of vehicles that we've ever.
That's good.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So anywhere from like a Subaru to a Bronco to stock Jeep, the Gladiators, a Denali, the Ram, the Tacoma, the Toyotas, a lot of Toyotas. Yeah. We get Nissans, Pathfinders. We've had Lexus. I mean, there are so many capable off-road vehicles out there. So if you're willing to learn, like we're definitely willing to teach you for sure. So it's great.
Great.
Yeah.
The going back to the Jeep thing, obviously you're a Jeep girl. And Trisha had a very good question here in her notes. What does a Jeeper mean to you?
Oh man, like I think so. I mean, I think just anybody that embraces the Jeep culture. So, you don't have to off-road to be a Jeeper. Like you can definitely show up at the mall, just have a beautiful Jeep as long as you respect the fact that it is like really capable vehicle. You enjoy top down, you enjoy, roof off, whatever that might be. I think like, you're kind to the community, you wave, you do the things I think that are historically like things that we should be proud of about Jeep. So to me, that's just embracing everything Jeep and not judging one Jeep or another, right? So, I mean, I find like I go to the grocery store or the Costco and like, I'll park next to another Jeep. Like, I think it's cool. I think
Yeah.
that that's part of the whole Jeeper community. So that's what that means to me. I know that that gets posted a lot. And I think that is what sort of sets us apart in the off-road community, is that we are just a very kind community. So, yeah.
Well, I think even Trisha and Nikki mentioned in the episode with the GTA Jeep girls is that it's not just, JKs or JLs and stuff like that showing up at their meet and greet events. There's Cherokees, there's Trailhawk Cherokees, there's all kinds of different Jeeps and
Gladiators.
Gladiators, all kinds of different unique or different Jeep vehicles. So sometimes I think we tend to forget that Jeeps are not just they're not just the JLs or the JKs of the world, right? And they do make other vehicles, and some of those other vehicles are quite capable. Take a Cherokee Trailhawk or something like that. And
sure. I mean, a lot of XJs and YJ or WJs, they're still on the trails today, and those are very capable vehicles that were unibody, right? So, yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's see. Now, do you have a favorite trail that you like to wheel? I always ask people because I'm like, okay, I know like we go, all over, like, a lot of the trails in Ontario, and I've only wheeled in Ontario, so I haven't explored or anything at all. So my list is very small. But, I like to ask people, like, what's your favorite place? Like, where is it? Like, how is the terrain? What do you see?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned Calabogie before. I say probably my favorite trail there would have to be the Evergreen Trail. Ooh. And you start at the bottom of a mountain and you climb to the top, and it is amazing. And then there's just obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And then you basically have to drive back down a mountain. And I can't explain to you the type of elevation changes that trails, but the trails there are pristine. They're tight. They're technical. Yeah, it is. That is by far my favorite trail. Second favorite, closer to us, which we use for NAP, is a private land trail, which we have exclusive access to for the event, which is amazing because those trails are pristine. There's lack of mud. There is, Trisha, we've been together. I mean, it is dressed. You're also climbing up a mountain, not a BC mountain, but a mountain.
A little mountain, the baby mountain.
Incredible. If you're, we get to do that in the fall, see the fall colors. I think, those are my two favorite trails. If I was to name a Crownland trail that everyone had free access to, Evergreen is a Crownland trail in Calabogie, for sure. All the trails in Calabogie, in fact, are Crownland, and they are privileged enough to have a really large number of trails that are Crownland. But here in Ontario, I would say my favorite trail would be Pencil Lake Trail. And it's not the hardest trail, but it is, again, a very nice, picturesque trail.
It is.
Yeah. And there's a pretty cool obstacle. And I think it just gives the newer Jeeper and the expert Jeeper just a variety of things to be able to do. So it almost like allows everyone to have a great day. And I think to me, that's the most important thing.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier the Ontario. It's not the Ontario Four-Wheel Drive Association. Sorry, it's what's the association with?
Four-Wheel Drive. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about them? Because I know they're not just a club. They're not just a group where you do the newbie runs and stuff like that. They've got their own event with the Northern Lights, and they've also got they're a lot more involved on the political side as well. And so maybe if you can give our listeners a little bit of information about them.
Sure. So their advocacy for our sport, like they are our voice, when the government on Ontario wants to make changes to trail systems, we are as strong as, the OFTR, which is the dirt bikers, and the ATV Association and the OFSC. I mean, the Ontario Federation of Snowmobilers is the strongest advocacy group on Crownland trails for good reason. They have the most money. We have a fair amount of reserve money to be able to go up against, allow our trails to remain open. And a part of all of your membership, in fact, goes to that. It certainly is very important to be a member, because if it wasn't for the UF 4-wheel drive, we would not have a place to wheel in Ontario. Ontario is so populated that anywhere pretty much south, I mean, Hogsback, that's pretty much Raglan. That's pretty much the closest place. And those trails, that doesn't give you a lot of variety. And so you have to drive north in Ontario a couple of hours out of the city to be able to access good off-road trails. And if those are taken away, then what do we have? We literally would have nothing. And I think the Jeep community and the ATV community, because we work the most closely together because we're seasonally together on the trails, work very, very hard to advocate to the Ontario government and to allow us to keep these trails open. There have been talks about Ontario amalgamating all of the trails and having an Ontario path. There's things like that. And our federation goes up against the government and tells them why we don't think that that's the way that things should be done. And if we didn't have the membership, we didn't have the money, quite frankly, we wouldn't have the voice. And so, it is a very strong organization that has a big voice to represent us. And not a lot of people realize that, I think. But we do. We have over 2,000 members, which isn't a lot when you think about it, but it is quite a bit. Most of us are regular off-roaders, right? And we are aware of it, but the organization can definitely grow. And I think the advocacy part of it is the biggest reason to be a part of the federation, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely worth joining. The organization's been around since the 80s or something like that, I know. And they've been doing it a long time. And it's definitely worth spending a little bit of money on it just to help them out, get that membership. And because they also look at numbers too, right? The government looks at the 2,000 members or things like that. They take that into consideration too when they're talking with them as well. So it's the larger numbers groups sometimes have a bit more pull, right? So I suggest everybody do what they can to join up with the association for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So if you're an individual member, it's $50 a year. And if you're part of a club like the GTA Jeep Girls, there is a discount for those for $25. There may be a club fee, a small nominal club fee, but at the end of the day, it's pretty inexpensive to be part of such a strong organization, for sure. And you're right. You mentioned that Camp Northern Lights.
Yeah.
It's a huge one. There's usually over 200 people that attend. And it's just like-minded people who off-road at all different levels, beginner to expert, again, like just an incredible experience. And that, you have to be a member to attend the event for that. And I think that event alone is worth the membership for the year.
Yeah, I attended it a couple times when I was living in Ontario, and it was such a fun event. It was just, it was just laid back fun and some good trails and just good times. And yeah.
Well, and it's fully guided. So you're being taken out by like expert guides and, nothing bad's going to happen. Right. So yeah, good.
You would have loved the Jeeper Jamborees when they were around.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun times at the Jeep Jamborees. It was some good times for sure.
Well, I wanted to do like a little fun segment just to stir up the pot a little bit. I put together a this or that questions just to see. I know everyone has different opinions and what they like, and every Jeep is different. Every wheeler is different and what they want to put on their Jeep or whatnot. So I just thought something fun to go with, something different. So I guess we can do this all three of us and see how different we are. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards here. I'm going to start different ways. So let's do the first question. When wheeling, would you prefer to wheel a vintage Jeep or brand new Jeep?
Brand new Jeep.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say vintage. I'm going to go old school.
I'm definitely an old school guy. I mean, for anybody that knows me knows that I'm old school guy. So to me, if I can get to be out wheeling with a Willys, whether it be a stock, a modified one, or something like that, would be my ideal. I'd be in heaven doing that. So
in heaven, okay. All right.
I'm just vintage,
so
and I'll
comfortable.
Oh, that's true. I mean, the new Jeeps are definitely a lot more comfortable. And I'm actually going to throw out a plug. I run a Facebook group called Vintage 4-Wheel Drive Canada. So anybody wants to know about vintage vehicles in Canada, check the group out on Facebook.
Cool. I will.
Okay, cool. Okay, next, rock climbing or mud?
Rock climbing.
I used to say mud when I was 20, but it's be rock climbing for me for sure.
Rock climbing. Okay. This is tough because I do like mud, and I'm going to say it because I do love water and mud. And I know it's a pain to clean. And I
That's the
know it's like
reason.
the undercarriage and just the amount of like, oh, everything's going to get rusted.
The wear and tear. Yeah.
Wear and tear of it. But I do love mud. I do. I love it. I love it. Okay. Next, soft top or hard top? Like, would you rock a hard top the whole time, or would you have a soft top?
So the condition of my soft top says soft. The condition of my roll cage says no top. But I do. There are two women that I wheel with hardcore, and they run a hard top the whole entire time.
The whole entire time.
It can be done. It's just when you're guiding, you just need to be more conscientious of like where the Jeep's going to go next and how it's going to articulate. Right. So
right.
That would be my only concern.
Yeah, that's what I found like a challenge too, is that I recently purchased, I guess 2 summers now, a soft top. I run a Trek top, the slant back. And I recently put on my hard top. I've been running the soft top the whole time, but decided this winter to put the hard top on. Yeah. And I did wheel with it in the summer with the hard top. And I noticed that too, Amber, like just navigating and just going through obstacles. I'm like, okay, I got to like watch where I'm going, because I'm going to like, rent trees or whatnot. I'm going to, hit that hard top. With a soft top, you're like, oh, I had some giveaway. It's okay.
Yeah, for sure. I run the hard top in the winter. I mean, it's just so much warmer. And
yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I think for me, it really depends on the vehicle as well, too. You take like say my TJ, I had a soft top and a hard top. And even a TJ to say a JL, the difference in the fitment and quality of stuff, it has improved so much that running a soft top, you don't seem to get the noise and the flapping and stuff like that you would with the older vehicles. And so even the last year that I had my TJ, I actually kept my hard top on all year, which I know is blasphemy for some Jeep owners, but it was part of, I had a rack on for the kayaks and stuff like that too, right? So made it, if I had to put my top down, I'd have to flip the rack back and all that kind of stuff, right? So kind of a pain, but there's something to be said about the hard top in the wintertime and that, but soft tops are cool too. So the toss up for me.
It's a toss up. Okay. Here's one that we were talking about earlier. Summer wheeling or winter wheeling? Yes. Or we can say just any kind of weather wheeling and winter wheeling.
And really except winter wheeling.
Wheeling. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it off air before we hopped on, and I think we all came to the same conclusion that we're not huge fans of winter wheeling.
Winter wheeling,
and I think I could be with the right vehicle, and that makes a big difference, right? But if you're running, say, a Jeep or something with 33s, or it's a lot easier to get stuck anywhere than it is, say, a truck with 40s. So
great.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of getting stuck all the time, right? So
your 5-hour trail becomes like an extra hour trail.
And a lot of it depends on the snow too, right? You take a look at the snow, that like springtime snow is just, it's like sugar and sugar with ice underneath it kind of idea, right? Yeah. And that's not fun. But if you're out there in fresh powder, it's a lot of fun. So it really depends on the snow as well. But for me, fall time, I love fall. Yeah. That's probably my favorite time of year. And, you'll get the colors out there. The temperature's not, oh my God, it's so hot, especially over in Ontario where you guys are
bugs.
So humid.
No bugs.
Yeah, no bugs. Exactly. Right. So, so fall time's definitely my favorite personally.
Okay. Here's another conversion. This one's very controversial. Synthetic rope and steel cable. Those winches, and everyone runs their winches so differently. So differently. So right now for myself, I have a steel cable. Thought about changing it.
It's not an expensive upgrade. If I'm saying upgrade, because from a safety perspective, the synthetic rope is a lot safer. So I guess if you're going to get yourself more into precarious positions, the synthetic rope is just a lot easier to maintain. And the longevity of it. But if the winch came with this steel cable and we're just going to be like a overlander or off-road from time to time, I think a steel cable is just fine. It's definitely had its place in history much longer than the synthetic rope.
Right? Right.
Yeah, I got the same opinion. I mean, I'm a synthetic rope person, but up until synthetic ropes became popular in the last, 4 years,
Yeah.
I was using steel cable for the longest time and without any issues. And it goes back to the thing of taking care of your equipment and noticing if there is something, right? Like a kink in a steel line, or if you've got a cut on a soft line, synthetic line. Yeah. Then, it's just a matter of keeping care of it and just inspecting it all the time. Right. So
100%.
Yeah. I will give a shout out to my good friend Ian from Afraid Not Ropes.
Yeah. Amazing company.
Yeah. All made in Canada. So anybody out there is looking to go into synthetic ropes or the toe straps.
Kinetic
ropes and soft shackles. And Ian's a great guy, and he's been working really hard to bring a quality Canadian made product to the industry. And he's a really good product. I don't know if anybody's watched some of his testing videos where he's testing the different weaves and that on the ropes, and he's pulling some really impressive numbers. So, and he's a good guy too. So
I'm pretty sure that we have him testing some product with our newbie runs this year as a sponsor of the OF World Drive.
Oh yeah.
So that's
cool.
Yeah. He attended the Campanelle last summer.
Yeah.
So I know that there were a lot of people who adopted that. The soft shackles, I think most popular, just so easy. I mean, I honestly, like, the wheeling that I do is difficult most cases, and we do winch and we do recover quite a bit. And for that reason, that anything soft and easy to just manipulate, be able to get you off the situation back on the trail fast is definitely a benefit for sure.
Well, I have a Toyota, so I don't get stuck, but I do have it for others.
Sorry.
My friend Brian and I were up doing a little bit of winter wheeling, and we came across a tow truck that's trying to pull a guy out, and we actually ended up pulling the tow truck out and then pulling the tow truck up to get to the other vehicle. And we actually ended up pulling the other vehicle out for the tow truck. But we were showing the guy the soft shackles, and he hadn't seen them before. And he was just kind of blown away, how easy they were and that. So it was a real learning experience for him. So it was kind of cool.
That is cool. You guys teaching a tow truck there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay, last one. Skid plates or rock sliders? Do you want to protect underneath or the sides?
Goodness.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, right?
So I will say that if you own a JK or you've purchased a used JK and you want to take it off-road, I think the first thing that you need to do is skid plate. I think that if you have a new JL and you want to off-road, the first thing you need to do are get those side steps off there and put rock rails on. So the JLs come naturally lifted a little bit higher than the stock JKs. And so therefore they've had more of a thoughtful design from factory on where the, vulnerable things like the oil pan and the gas tank are. So they've made those changes from factory for you. So I think it just depends on the vehicle that you have, but both are very important modifications for sure.
Yeah, I think rock sliders were one of my first that I put on my JL was the rock sliders.
I think I'm constantly sharing that people just take them off and want to sell them for really little money. I'm like, so go buy them. I actually just honestly, I have been looking for JK rock rails for my going on 8-year-old JK who has rock rails who are pretty bashed up. And I found a mid pair for $125. And it is
nice.
It is like a gift to me. That's not a gift, right? So yeah, definitely depends on the vehicle for sure, but both are very important for off-roading purposes.
And it definitely depends on the terrain as well too, right? Terrain. You guys have a lot of rocks, a lot of trees out there.
We do.
And whereas the interior BC where I am, I'm going skid plates first before I go to the sliders. I want them both, obviously, but sliders for Tacoma are like $1,000, $1,200, $1,400, right? So it for some reason, but yeah, they're both equally as important, I think, for sure. Now, if you're going to go skid plates, what skid plates do you think people should go in what order? If they're not going to do everything at once, what order should they do them?
So again, I think it depends on the Jeep, but you from the JL from factory has pretty good, cross member protectors. So I would go with gas tank skid, then transmission skid likely, and then honestly, like I'm fully skidded. Like I just went all out.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to protect everything.
Just like everything fully skidded. So if you really want to get into some crazy off-roading, then fully skidded for sure. But I think you can get bits and pieces to protect the most vulnerable spots.
Yeah, if you're worried about the budget and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
so I definitely agree that a lot of times the skid or the fuel tank is one of the lower hanging things and probably the least protected from the factory.
Yeah. And if you own a Bronco and you want to take it off-road, like the first thing before anything else is a fuel tank skid plate.
Yep.
It is very vulnerable. I'm not sure what they were thinking in their design, but it is the lowest part of the whole vehicle.
Have you had a chance to drive one of the Broncos off-road?
No, I've guided them though.
Okay.
Oh, you've guided one? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we have some upcoming on our newbie runs too. They're similar in some cases, but they are longer and they're totally different, but they do articulate somewhat similar to a Jeep. They're definitely not a Jeep. So It depends on the model too, because they have, different models, the Sasquatch, the rear differential lock, and those types of things. So it just really depends on which vehicle, you're guiding on a trail for sure.
Have you found that technology is making people lazier drivers or not as good drivers?
I don't think that. So the JLs, for example, like they have the fancy screen and they have like the word is leaving me, but it'll tell you whether you're off camber or.
Oh, it has something
meter?
called off-road pages where they show your pitch, your angle, your inclines, all your gauges, your temperature, cooling, everything that's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have an analog one on my Jeep because my nickname is Off Camber Amber. And I don't enjoy that position. A degree of angle over 20 makes me very uncomfortable. And I usually need to be talked through the situation. Unless I've done the trail 100 times and then I know better. But if it's something new, and in Calabogie, their trails are very off camber. But I just find that, again, people, they're not doing the research first. And so the technology is there. And then once we show them about the technology, then it makes them a better wheeler because they're more inclined to understand what that piece of technology is trying to tell them, right? Otherwise, it's just lost in a page, like Trisha said, like just in off-road pages. So I think that the technology is definitely a benefit for sure for future wheelers, 100%.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that I use, like the ascent and stuff like that,
Sure.
right? I mean, the way it works is going to stop you from actually skidding down the trail on a very steep,
right?
Descent, right? So I find I do tend to use that from time to time as well too. So, but does the Jeep have different modes? Like I know the Tacoma, I've got, I can put it into a rock or a sand in the mud. Does the Jeeps have that as well too? I've never used it in my Tacoma, but
it's pretty much like 4 high, 4 low.
Okay.
Yeah. The Broncos have those modes. So you have those sand and rock modes for sure.
I know the Trailhawks do.
Okay.
Right. And the Grand Cherokees do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they have like a dial where you can go into sand, mud, different terrains, just like a click of a dial.
Yeah. Yeah. So on a Toyota, it's the same, if you'll be in 4 low and then like say sand, mud, rock,
right,
whatever. Right. So I've played around with them a little bit, but I haven't really noticed much of a difference on it. So, but technology is changing all the time on these vehicles. So quite interesting to see what everybody's coming up with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What do you got next on your list there, Trisha?
Let's see. I think we covered most of our questions. One question I particularly wanted to ask Amber was a good spotter versus a bad spotter. Now, this is from experience for myself, just, wheeling with myself or other groups or whatnot. And, when I started wheeling at the very beginning and now just doing it for the amount of years I've done it, you learn your guidance, you learn your terrains, you get a sense of like where your wheels are, how, like Amber said, you're off camber and your pitch and your roll, whatnot. But I always tell people, or, friends of mine, if you're going to go wheeling, go with someone who's, experienced, and definitely don't go wheel alone. And, just go with someone that's experienced, basically. Right. So what kind of tips like would you suggest? Cause I know that you've done this many years now, but what is like the good spotter versus a bad spotter, or just something that you should be looking for, or what's like, along those lines, I guess I should say.
Yes, for sure. I think like you can know everything technical and mechanical about a Jeep, but you can't know what the person is feeling inside and emotionally and like their comfort level and confidence level unless you are really paying attention to that first. So first and foremost, the truck itself, whether it's a Toyota or a Bronco or a Jeep, it's very capable. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an off-road vehicle. So for me, when we were putting people on newbie runs, we put people on newbie runs based on their truck first and then their experience second, because I can talk them through a difficult situation if I can recognize how they're feeling. Are they scared? Are they anxious? Are they excited? Things like that. So I think a good spotter recognizes the driver's mental state at the time, first and foremost. And I think that you also need to be cognizant of like your directions are going to take this person on their next step, their next obstacle, and they're either going to love this or never come back again. And so a good spotter is going to be able to anticipate the next moment of the Jeep and communicate that to the driver based on, whether or not they trust you. And that's huge, right? So
It's huge.
building
Yeah.
trust and confidence, like first and foremost, is the number one benefit of a good spotter. I've seen people break things, that never needed to be broken because their spotters encouraged them to just give her. You don't give her. Slow and steady wins the race, and lockers and things like that will help you up. Winches will help you up, and 3 tries and you're done. But I think just being able to recognize somebody's comfort level in the driver's seat, and then also being aware of their passengers too, is also a good thing, because a lot of times we run into situations where the driver wants to come off-roading, but the passengers doesn't really love the and you gotta have have 2 rules. 2 hands on the wheel and your windows are open at all times. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, the bugs are crazy, like turn your air conditioning little vents out towards the window and the bugs won't come in. There's like tips and tricks. Yeah, I think that's once you can become the psychologist of, then you're winning, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think I've had a couple of those, first time doing some difficult obstacles. And you're right. Like you go through this kind of a quick panic stage because you're literally off camber or you're straight up looking to the sky and you're like,
yes,
I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea where my Jeep is. I have no idea where my wheels are. You need to talk to me like I'm a child right now. Like tell me where I am, where I'm going. Like, where are my rocks?
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Your right tire is going to come down, and then your left tire is going to come down, and and then you're going to be off the obstacle, and you've done it.
Yeah,
Right?
That's actually a really good point about telling people, okay, you're coming down, your left tire is going to touch, and that's something a lot of spotters don't say, right? They just really kind of rely on hand signals. So that's actually a very good point that you brought up about being vocal with the person as well, and not only guiding them, but guiding them or telling them what's going to happen next. I think that's a huge point that you've brought.
They're focused and they know what's coming, so they're not worried about just trying to anticipate in their mind, like, oh my God, what did I see that was going to happen, right?
Yep.
So I think communication is key to most things in life.
Yeah. Another thing that I've picked up just going with Off-Roading Central off-road group and those guys is that going over a difficult obstacle, I started to get out of my vehicle beforehand, and I would just kind of examine my area. Okay, where I'm going, where am I ending up, where I'm going to put my wheels, where I'm going to drop, where I'm, just figure out my situation. And then for me, I'm like, mentally, I can see that in my brain while I'm getting back into the Jeep. Okay, this is where I'm going, can have an idea, right?
Yep.
Like a roadmap.
Yeah.
And, feeling like that has helped me a lot. And my nervousness of, going through a difficult obstacle. And yeah, you just like, and then you kind of like, where your guide is coming from, where, the anticipation of like that obstacle, that drop, that, that little cliffhanger that you're getting into.
Yeah. Why they want
really
you to
help.
turn into the awkward off-camber situation rather than turning out of it, right? Like those
Exactly.
things. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So that's something that I've picked up as, like I said, being with that group and just like what they've taught me kind of helped me in my wheeling experience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely never a problem to get out and pre-look or pre-walk the trail a little bit. Yeah. Because a lot of times there's things that you won't see from the inside of your vehicle.
No.
Right. Have you thought about attending the Rebel Rally?
I'm not familiar with it. Can you tell me about it?
Oh, I thought you'd know all about that one. So the
No,
Rebel
I didn't.
Rally is a female-only event that happens in the deserts of California and Nevada. And they shut off all the GPS and you're not allowed to have your phone with you. So
wow.
you're working off a map.
I'm
right?
in. I'm on.
So you're
Oh my God.
you're working off a map and a
Yeah.
compass.
Okay.
And then you've got to
Okay.
go out and you've got to find these waypoints. And certain waypoints are worth more points. But these waypoints, you have to be basically right over top of them. And then you actually have a little transponder, I guess you call it for lack of a better term. And you click that. And then if you're right on it, you're perfect. If you're a meter off of it, you lose points.
Oh my God. I'm in.
Oh my
And
God.
it's like a 10-day
I know,
event.
it's like, oh my gosh.
So-
yeah, I'm capturing the flag and it's
Exactly.
off-roading all in one.
It is such a neat event.
And I'm already, that's cool. So that I'm in, that would be amazing. With the OF four-wheel drive, with the trail index, you get access to the trails, but based on GPS coordinates. I'm like, my guides are amazing, but like I had to teach them how to get to the trail. I'm like, I have a pretty good memory and I've been doing this for a really long time, but like there's a lot of there's a lot of learning to do about GPS, but I am all over that kind of stuff. Mr. Jeep this year, did you see they had an all women's run? I was so pumped about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jesse Combs, Goldie was there.
I saw that.
And I got to touch the steering wheel when I was at the King of the Hammers. And I
saw that.
I bawled my eyes. That was such an amazing experience. No, I'd be totally in for that.
You'll have
we
to
need
check
to get
it out.
like a big group. Yeah, we
Well,
need to bring a group.
100%
We need to
not going to sleep before I check it out.
we're gonna have like 18-wheeler trucks with Jeeps on them, and we're gonna go down.
Oh, it's incredible. You got to check it out. It's Rebelle, REBELLE. And I can't remember the name of the lady that organized it, but it's all basically about empowering women. And I had an episode with some ladies from West Kelowna here in BC that went down, and it was in October, I believe it was. And it's about a week and a half after they got back from doing it. And they're still vibrating with excitement when they're talking to me.
I
Right?
can imagine.
It was a great episode. And what the driver, the one person, the navigator had been doing it for a couple of years, but she'd always been driving. So she wanted to navigate. And then her friend drove, her neighbor drove during the event. And it was such an empowering event for both of them because they're learning new skills, especially the driver. She's doing these sand dunes and she'd never been on sand dunes before. And they learned about different recovery. And it doesn't matter on the vehicle. You can have, you can have a Subaru, or there's a fully modded out early 70s Bronco that goes every year that I see photos of. But none of that really matters because you're dealing with your navigation, right? So they have these different stages, and then they also have the odd, I think about 2 or 3 times through the day or through the week, they have a time speed distance. So you have to leave the start line. You have to get to say point A within 4 minutes and 14 seconds. So
Wow.
But you have to time that based on, because you don't have a stop, you don't have a thing to time it. So you got to base it on your kilometers per hour and stuff like that,
Wow.
right?
Old school.
So, yeah, old
That's
school,
cool.
right? So, but every day, like there's incredible food. Again, you're not allowed to have your cell phones until after the event kind of idea. So there's no,
Wow.
which can be a little hard for some people, but you're all sleeping in tents. So you're with
Wow.
200 other women sleeping in tents and incredible
Wow.
food. And it's just, from my understanding, it's just an incredible event for women. They come back different people. So
That's awesome.
you have to check it out for sure.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I want to see your name on the list next year.
Oh, it's I'm already.
So I think it's and I don't know what the entry fee is, but I think it's a bit of an expensive
Doesn't
event.
matter.
But it's a lot of them do fundraising, right? Like the
Cool.
ladies here
Yeah.
in BC here, they're going back again next year, and they've already started their fundraising. They're having pub nights and they're having draws and different things like that. And so they've already started their fundraising. And you also pick a charity of choice. And this year, the ladies won the positivity team that I interviewed. They won the international category. And so the Rebel Rally donated $1,000 US to a charity of their choice. And that's well too. So everybody has a charity that they're going for, kind of idea, right? So pretty awesome event. You guys also check it out.
Yeah, check it out. We'll definitely check it out. Definitely check it out. Well, I think for questions on my side are complete.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So once again, we are talking to Amber from the Not A Pavement Princess off-road event. And you can find her at the Not A Pavement Princess on Facebook. They've got an event coming up on July 8th in Minden. Check it out for all the ladies. And I'm sorry, what was the Instagram handle again?
Not A Pavement Princess _official.
That's right. Perfect. And we'll put that up in the show notes and all the links that we do as well too. So go from there. And Trisha, did you want to ask the last question?
Oh, okay. Let's see here. So what Canadian would you like to hear on 4x4 Canada podcast? What would be someone that you'd like to have on the show?
Oh my gosh, that's so tough. I think that everyone would really enjoy hearing from JP and Marco Muzo from that race the King of the Hammers. I think you'd really enjoy them. That again, that experience, I can tell you right now, is incredible. There's the other racing teams too. I'm sure Hollywood race team would love to talk to you guys about that. But just being a Canadian down in a very, very American dominated off-road event, we were very well welcomed, and very small team of people. There was a couple of other competitors from the West Coast, so Calgary, I believe, in Alberta, maybe Edmonton. But yeah, it was amazing. I think you guys would really love to hear from them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We'll get a hold of them and we'll get them on board, because racing is a whole nother aspect, right? And
it really is.
Especially the international travel these guys have been doing down to the King of the Hammers. And the King of Hammers is an event that everybody must attend once, I think.
I 100% agree.
It's a pinnacle.
The hardest off-road race in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the pinnacle of off-road racing. And there's definitely there's 3 races I can think of that every off-road fan should go to at least once, and that would be King of the Hammers, the Baja 1000, and short course racing in Crandon, Wisconsin. And
oh, cool.
That's, if you've never been there, it's like short course racing is like sprint cars jumping kind of idea, right?
Cool.
So it's just absolutely wild and mayhem in that. So yeah, Baja 1000, the Crandon, Wisconsin short course racing, and King of the Hammers. You got to do them all at least once. Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on tonight, to Amber and Trisha.
Yes.
You coming back as a co-host again?
Oh, I'm coming back. I am coming back for sure.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, not a problem. We've definitely enjoyed it. And
yes,
we'll end up talking to you soon. Appreciate it. Thanks, Amber.
Yes. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.